Hello and welcome to the RG10 podcast. And today we're taking you to the riverbanks of the Thames for a deep dive into one of the quirkiest and most fiercely loved traditions in the RG10 summer calendar, the Wargrave and Shiplake Regatta. 158 years strong, this isn't your average rowing event. We're talking about canoeing, punting, skiffing, and yes, dongoling. Trust us, you're going to want to stick around to find out what that is. I've been speaking to Laura Bower, one of the passionate volunteers who helped bring this extraordinary two-day spectacle to life. She gave me an inside scoop on the quirky traditions, the fiercely contested finals, and the sheer logistical feat of building an entire riverside village. It exists in that marvellous intersection of community and chaos, and I mean that in the best way possible. I started by asking Laura how seriously people take it.
So for some people, they enter just to have a good time. They might get knocked out in the first round. They might accidentally get through to the next round and almost be a bit annoyed that they've got through. For others, including members of my family, getting to the final is like an annual. People are training and sometimes training all year to do this.
Laura, I must jump in there. Not your family, but I have heard stories about this.
Yes.
This kind of thing. I'm not going to name names, but they know who they are. Anyway, continue.
It's absolutely insane. And the finals, so the finals will happen on the Saturday, and they are hotly contested and then discussed and analysed for every day thereafter.
What do you think makes the regatta unique compared to other regattas that might to happen quite nearby to Wargrave?
Yeah, so I think it's when it was first founded. So sort of in the 1867 is when the very first verifiable Wargrave Regatta was held. That was at a time when traditional boating was at an all-time high. People were on the river. There were regattas happening in towns up and down the Thames. So our regatta, the Wargrave Shiplake Regatta, wouldn't have been that unique or that unusual. And in fact, Henley Regatta, the very first one there, had punting races, which were then dropped in favour of just having rowing. So I think what makes us unique now is that we're still going when many others have disappeared, and we've got a beautiful fleet of traditional boats that we own. So if you compete in the regatta, we provide everything: the skiffs, the punts, the punt poles, the rowing boats, you name it. And our fleet is absolutely tip-top condition. And we also show the full breadth of traditional boating. So we're not limited to just skiffing or just dongoling, which is dongoling is a bit like dragon boating, but in a punt. We've got this huge array of all these disciplines, and we still get people competing at the highest possible level. So it's not just there is a very much a have a go element, but we also get people who are experts, and I think that's what makes it so unique.
The organisation, how much work goes into that?
An awful lot, actually. It's a charity event. It's run as a charity. We're not for profit, and it's run by a team of volunteers. We've got a committee, and on the committee we're divided up into sort of buckets of people who do different things. So there's one group who look after the whole regatta field. So from 90% of the year, 95% of the year, this is an empty field. It's or it might have animals grazing. So for the regatta,
side of the river to Wargrave, like the
it's on the Shiplake bank. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's in Lower Shiplake, opposite Wargrave Boat Club, and so the entire infrastructure has to be bought in. Everything from marquees to speaker systems to electricity to the loos to all the pontoons, and then all the boats as well have to be bought up. So you've got to set up. There's one element of it is actually setting up an entire regatta enclosure. Throughout the year, there's also the maintenance of the boats and the storage of the boats. We've got the marketing and PR, of course, and and many other things. So there's practice sessions get run. There's things like looking at insurance. There's the regatta shop. There's booking the food vendors. There is a whole raft of stuff that needs doing, and I'm sure I've forgotten some very important parts of it. And so throughout the year, there's a team of us who are just working alongside our sort of normal paid jobs, just working to put the event together.
I'm guessing it must pretty much be Wargrave's #1 social event, would you say?
We sort of get over 1,000 people coming along, and they compete in sort of 350, 400 races. So it's a huge event, and you get a lot of newcomers and a lot of there's a lot of families who've been going since the beginning of time, and then there's a lot of newcomers every year, and then there's people who just come to spectate and make a day of it. You know, come down by the river, bring a picnic, sit under their gazebos, and then either be cheering people on or just enjoying the spectacle, because it is actually quite an unusual event. So whether or not it's Wargrave's biggest social event, I don't know, but it is certainly a big annual staple.
We're all about superlatives here, so
Yeah,
for the
it
sake of this
is it. It
episode,
is Wargrave's biggest social event.
let's be certain.
It's,
Okay, so I hate to put a dampener on things, but weather, how does that
yes.
impact the event? How do you plan around it?
So, from a competitor point of view, we keep the races going in almost all conditions. The time it stops is the minute anybody sees lightning. So, thunder and lightning is what stops it. And then you have to wait for a specific amount of time. But I've certainly raced in some of the most atrocious conditions, in like driving rain and wind, just fighting to get down the course. So we're not going to stop it for that. What it does do, of course, is when it's absolutely pouring with rain, you get fewer people coming to spectate, which is a shame because nobody really wants to sort of stand out in the cold and wet. But as for actually running it, it just means quite a lot of miserable officials and umpires in boats sort of standing there with like looking very soggy whilst they're going up and down the river.
Have you had to take into consideration, let's be brutal about it, the water quality of the Thames these days? Is that anything that you've had to think about?
Yeah, we do. We really take it into consideration. We're in touch with the Environment Agency quite a lot, and a lot of it is knowing, say, how much water flow is coming through, because it's when the water isn't flowing through that you can get a build up of all the nasties and stuff. We we're everybody in the regatta, unless they fall out, is actually in boats. So we do things like we do have hand sanitizer. We encourage people to wash their hands. Um, we're lucky, the river's not in flood at that time of year usually, unless it's some kind of extraordinary year, but it's not in flood. Um, it does worry us, but similarly, we're very lucky and we haven't seen any negative effects so far.
So, what are the hopes or plans for the future of Wargrave Regatta? You've got a winning formula. Is it kind of very much if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
Yeah, it is. Although we do look to evolve the event. So we brought in some sponsors, which is fantastic, and we always look to add new things to the regatta enclosure. So if you're visiting the event, you're coming in. There's a beer tent, which is quite famous with its all-day bacon butties, and then you go and get a pint at the other end of the tent. There's the regatta shop. We've got various other stalls and food vendors, and we're always looking to add extra things, which might be great for children. So there's a play area, there's an ice cream van. So we're always happy to look at other things to bring in. From an event point of view, we do discuss the events. Are there any categories we're missing? We run an absolutely packed schedule from very early on Friday morning until later on Saturday afternoon. So there's not much room to add anything else in. The financially, that is our greatest challenge. So it's securing, as it's a not-for-profit, it is just we've got a fantastic amount of sponsors. We're lucky enough to have two big sponsors this year. So we've got Amy Goodall-Smith. Her family have been competing in the regatta for many, many years. And Goodall-Smith Wealth Management sponsors the Scratch Dongler. And we've got Medlock Electrical Suppliers. Again, one of their founders has competed in the regatta for many years. And we really do rely on sponsors to keep and secure the future of the regatta.
Finally, then, have you got any favorite memories or anecdotes from past regattas, perhaps standout stories, that kind of thing?
So personally, my favourite event is the junior dongler, which is where you get one adult and then five children. There are also sort of under 12 donglers as well, but this is for the teeny tinies. And I first entered a couple of years ago with my children, who are 5 and 7 years old now. and we had a crew of the little kids with 5 children and then me at the back of the boat, and it was one of the most exhausting events of my entire life, given that the children did absolutely nothing except wave at everybody on the banks. So you're in a long punt, I'm at the back absolutely slogging it out, and all the kids are there just waving, going, "Hi mum, hi dad, this is brilliant." But I absolutely love doing that event with my children and their friends. But but the first time my youngest did it, we were at the start waiting to go down, and she just turned to me and she was like, "Mummy, this is the worst day of my life." I was like, "Oh, great!" And then the starter is like, "Are you ready? Go!" And I'm like, "Oh, lovely."
There we go. That's what you should use on the advertising literature. The
The
worst
worst
day
day.
of my life.
Maddie,
Great
sure, yeah,
regatta.
yeah, exactly. But it's a really good event for anybody to get involved in. So it's, if you want to just come and have a go, we've got several events. So there's the Scratch Dongler, which takes place on the Saturday. No experience needed. You just turn up and we will put you into a crew, or you can enter your own Dongler crew. The entries are now open, and just have a go. Or there's a wonderful event which is called double punting in canoes, and that's a lot of people choose to dress up, and there's a lot of people falling in because you're trying to balance using it with a punt pole in a canoe and trying to propel yourself forward. And
Let's face it, that's what the crowd want to see, isn't it?
it is. It's one of our most popular events, and you kind of go into it thinking, I might be good or I might make a total fool of myself.
Huge thanks to Laura Bower for sharing not just the history and heart of the Wargrave and Shiplake Regatta, but also the sheer grit, laughter and little bit of mayhem that makes it all happen. Thanks for listening, and as always, if you enjoyed the episode, share it, subscribe and leave us a review. Goodbye.